What is up, my friends? We are back. It is Monday. Delighted to say I'm joined by Mr. David Lynch, and we're going to have a look back over Liverpool's victory over Manchester City this weekend, and of course, a look ahead to Wednesday's trip to St. James's Park. David, first off, I've got to call you out on something, my friend. You've been lying to us. You told us this wasn't normal, but Arne Slot's making this look pretty normal, David.
It's ridiculous, isn't it? Though, but I still kind of, you kind of had that little worry in the back of your mind that something's going to go wrong, or one of these big tests is going to come up and then just not going to quite pass it. But he's just taken everything in his stride. And what's mad about this week is that, or in fact, specifically yesterday's game is kind of. I met up with a few supporters who were over from the US yesterday and pre-match and was speaking to them, and kind of they were asking about, what's your score prediction? How do you think this is going to go? And I said 4-0 to Liverpool. And to be honest, obviously, I didn't get that right in terms of scoreline, but it could easily have been. And it was just because I was so confident that Liverpool this season are at a huge level above Manchester City. And that's the kind of confidence that Arne Slot and his team have instilled in me. And as you say, I still stick by that this isn't normal, that a new manager coming in shouldn't be able to do this as quickly as he has. But he's absolutely convinced me that he has done it, and that Liverpool are at this ridiculous level at the moment where a side like that can turn up and they can sweep them aside and move 11 points clear of them, 9 points clear in the title race. It's absolute madness.
Do you know what? I was listening to your match reaction, but then it kind of brought me back to some of Gary Neville's commentary in the game where it was 0-0, and he was even calling it a 0-0 battering or something to that effect. It was even, you said it in your match reaction, 2-0 doesn't reflect what we've seen out there on the pitch. It was a mauling. And I got to say, I was one of those people who kept saying, I'm worried. They've got to show up eventually. They might get it right. Surely, if they're going to get up for this one, we just outdone them in every single department. We outworked them. And one of my favourite aspects of it was how quickly we started. It was in the second half display. Right from minute one, we were at it, and it was clear that we were going for the throat.
Yeah, and I think it was fair to be worried, by the way, in the game, because ultimately, football is like that. It's a low-scoring sport, generally speaking, and so, you can miss 15 chances and then, the ball just drops, luckily, from a corner and Haaland's there to kind of tap it in. We've seen that, and it doesn't have to be against a team of Man City's quality for that to happen. Things can go wrong in football, so as long as you are 1-0, it is kind of worth being worried sometimes. But what I loved is that Liverpool was still... they just kept on controlling. And if you do that, you give yourself... They were just maximising the chances that they were going to be the side that scored the next goal. And again, you talk about the fast start, and I really, really enjoyed that. It was kind of Klopp-like. It got the crowd going. It set the tone. And the atmosphere was fantastic yesterday, by the way, again. But it was the fact that they did that. They had that fast start. But then the second half was completely different in that they kind of sat off a little bit more. They let Man City have the ball. Still didn't give up basically any opportunities of any quality whatsoever, and were coming up with opportunities, huge chances of their own to win the game. So battered City in both halves in completely different ways, and that's unbelievable versatility that they're showing there. And again, you don't necessarily have to do that, from one half to the next, but I think it bodes really well from match to match, because some games, I think of some of the tough away games coming up this season, they probably are going to have to sit in a little bit more and try and restrict the opposition in that way. But they've shown they can do it. They've shown they can do it against Manchester City. And then in the games where they want to batter sides, they want to press them to death, they've also shown that they can do that against Manchester City. So, yeah, great versatility that the team showed, and just loved every aspect of the performance, and that they were very, very good in totally different ways in the same game.
I agree. I actually noticed some of the same things you mentioned in your match reaction. We were able to mix it up in different ways, combat them in different ways, defend them in different ways, and it just speaks to the versatility of thought process, I guess, of Arne Slot and what he's able to make these small changes and tweak. I thought I'd mix it up a little bit this week, David. I'm going to ask you, who most impressed you in a Liverpool shirt yesterday? Who stood out for you?
It's really, really tough, because I think, I just think, honestly, and I genuinely do believe this, and it doesn't happen very often, but to a man, they were absolutely sensational. I mean, the one I kind of want to pick out, because he has the decisive moments in the game, is Mo Salah, and sometimes probably don't pick him out because we've said before, you get kind of blasé about his brilliance, but that assist is out of this world, isn't it? I mean, the vision and the execution to see that and be able to pull it off is absolutely ridiculous. And basically Gakpo, he genuinely just runs onto the ball. It's just there for him. He doesn't have to do anything. He doesn't even have to finish it. So that's the decisive moment that opens up the game in Liverpool's favour. And then I still think the penalty, it's a penalty and you're expected to score them, aren't you? And it's an easier chance than probably any other chance you get in the game. But it took some finishing that in terms of, he must have been thinking about the Real Madrid moment and having missed one in midweek. It's a game where you have missed a million chances. If you miss a penalty, then you really do start to think it's City's day and they might get a bit of luck and get away with it. So it's a huge pressure penalty.
Front of their fans. He's right in front of their fans as well, who were already giving him stick for the one he missed earlier.
Exactly, and waving arms and trying everything he could to try and put him off. And then Ortega, the dive is brilliant. He's so close to it. He gets right down in that corner, but the execution of the penalty is that good in a pressure moment that that seals the game. And how many times has he done that for Liverpool? Not just penalties, but any kind of big pressure moments he delivers. And yeah, he's done it again there, and that's massive. That sees out the win and makes sure Liverpool get the 3 points they deserve. So they are the decisive moments in the game he's provided there, and you probably can't look beyond him for man of the match for that reason, I think.
So if I'm being honest, I did have a look back over his assist for Cody Gakpo because I thought, is he shooting here? Is he shooting? Is that what he's doing? But then I looked, and you can see his eye line look up before he plays the ball. So he sees Gakpo running, and once I seen the eyes, and no, that was absolutely spot on. Do you agree, by the way, with some of the match of the day commentary and some other commentary that maybe Ake could have stuck a foot out or done something a little bit better to get the block in there? Because I didn't notice it until I'd seen it on match of the day. But when I look at it again, Ake maybe could have stuck that leg out and stopped it getting to Gakpo. Glad he didn't, obviously.
He probably could have, but I think the thing is he doesn't probably think that Mo is going to even attempt to do that, to try and thread it through that impossible space, because there's just nowhere for it to really get through. And so he's probably thinking he might want to try and dink this back post, stick it up for Gakpo to head it, and then he just threads it through and he puts it through with really nice pace on it, nice curl. And I think that kind of wrong foots Ake, and he doesn't get there to make the interception. So maybe you could say the defender could have done better, but I always try and tend towards thinking about what the attackers have done right in that situation, and it is just it's a brilliant through ball, I think, and yeah, it's just a great goal all round actually, because the ball that puts him through as well from Trent is out of this world too.
There was a couple of moments in the game I wanted to bring up. One of my favourite moments was Van Dijk's interception when it was him and Haaland going back towards goal. I could watch that all day on repeat, David. That was top quality defending. And to stick with Virgil for a second, he's going to feel even that game, how have I not scored? Because I've never seen him more aerially dominant in a game. He was getting on the end of everything, hitting the post, knocking one just over the bar, another one that he got angry at himself on the ground. I thought he was brilliant as well, apart from his little De Bruyne slip up.
Yeah, I thought the composure in that moment when he beats Haaland to it, the athleticism, he's quite comfortably the best centre half in the world, and people can argue amongst themselves about best of all time. I can't say that I've seen enough centre halves to maybe argue that, but surely when you think about how far football's come on and the demands they put on them now, he's surely in the conversation at least. And yeah, I just thought he absolutely bullied Haaland. I mean, Haaland's got an awful lot of qualities, but I've never once seen him come even close to coming out on top in that battle. I think Virgil van Dijk is on a different level to him. Obviously, they play different positions, but relative to their positions, he's on a different level to Haaland, I think, and he just continually shows it. And yesterday, that is probably the one moment when he cuts that one out quite easily, where he's made to kind of look like he's breaking a sweat, but otherwise it's so easy for him, winning headers and showing composure up against him and just nipping in there and winning the ball. Haaland hasn't troubled him, and he didn't when he was at Salzburg when they came up against him. Never since when they've come up against him.
Just got to bring that up.
Yeah,
I remember the first minutes of that game, he was through on goal, and Van Dijk came straight in, closed up shop. I was just about to bring that game up.
Yeah, he kind of ragdolled him in that, and you kind of thought, oh, you've got a little way to go, and then. In the years since he's been at Dortmund, he's now at Manchester City, and nothing's really changed when they come up against each other. Haaland's putting everybody else to the sword, but he can't hold the candle to Virgil van Dijk. So that is how good Van Dijk is up against probably the best goal scorer out there at the moment. And just unbelievable performance. And I thought that them as a defensive duo were really, really good. And it probably could have, the only thing Virgil could have done to cap it, as you say, is maybe score one of those chances. But one thing I take as encouragement from there is that Liverpool scored from a set piece against Real Madrid. They looked very dangerous from them against Manchester City. I would like to see more goals from those situations. So, the fact they came so close on so many occasions, that I take that as encouragement, particularly as it didn't matter to the scoreline in the end.
I think one thing we both have in common as well from yesterday's game, from listening to your match reaction, was we both enjoyed the performance of Dominic Szoboszlai as well yesterday. Not just defensively, not just with work rate, but you made a very valid point that he didn't score, he didn't assist, but the guile and creativity was there on display yesterday.
Yeah, I think he's just getting closer to having more output, really. If you take that amount of shots in a game and you're testing the goalkeeper as he did, if you're creating that many chances, you're getting closer to an assist. And I thought his all-round attacking play and use and control and kind of ball retention was very, very good yesterday. And then what you get on top of that, because that's always been a question mark, can he provide that a little bit more? But what you're always guaranteed when he does do that stuff is everything else he provides in terms of the defensive work. He was just everywhere, wasn't he? He was all over the pitch, closing things down, winning the ball, setting the tempo with that press in the first half in particular, and then always making sure he was, if City did at any point, if they played through, he would make sure he got goal side to kind of slow them down. So I thought he was, just a brilliant all-round performance and exactly what Liverpool fans kind of want to see from him. And I just thought he was perfect for that game as well. I wanted to see him come back in for this, to come up against a City midfield that's this season has looked slow and weak. And he is anything but those two things. And he just ran all over them from the first minute onwards. So, yeah, brilliant performance. And I think anyone who's kind of had the doubts over him this season, he's maybe taught them a bit of a lesson in recent performances, because I think he's really putting it all together now. And I think people were too soon to write him off as well. Anyway, he's clearly got a lot of qualities, and he's, as I say, putting that all together now. And we really are seeing the best of him.
So before we move on from yesterday's game, I want to just take a second to acknowledge Chris Kavanagh, the referee, who we thought handled the game very well, even despite the insane protests about the penalty from a couple of matches. I don't understand. I get where they were trying to go with it, but it was very clear that Salah ran away from the ball, was nowhere near it. Ortega catches Diaz. I didn't understand what the complaints were about, but I thought he handled the game very well.
Yeah, I think the biggest indicator really is that I did not think about the referee yesterday whatsoever. I don't even remember at any point thinking there was a controversial moment or a decision that wasn't quite right. And we do so often, don't we? We talk about referees in situations where they've got things wrong or things that we perceive as wrong, or we think a decision could have gone a different way. So it is important sometimes that when you get a game like that, and that's a really important, high quality, intense game like that, and played at 1,000,000 miles an hour, when a referee has a game where you don't notice him, you really should highlight it. And I agree. I thought he was absolutely brilliant yesterday and got all the big ones and probably all the small decisions right. So yeah, fair play to him.
So I want to speak about Queeveen again, because I want to know, are we mad for not keeping this guy around? Because what else can he do? He has absolutely been impeccable, imperious since he's come in. When he's not saving penalties, he's bailing out Virgil. I don't know what else to say to defend my fellow countryman, because the fact, two things bug me about it. One, that nobody put the money down in the summer. I still think they're all insane, and especially Chelsea. But also, I just feel for him, David. I really do feel for him, because obviously he stepped up in a big part of 2 seasons now in a row and has shown he belongs at this level. Are we mad for letting him go?
I just don't see how Liverpool could say anything to him, though, to kind of stop this, because the problem is that there is no guarantee that Alisson goes at the end of this season. And, while you have Alisson, you can't, as good as Queeve has been, there's just no way you can keep him in the side ahead of someone like Alisson when he's fit. And, you could say to him, look, there's going to be games for you there as the backup. There always is, because of the injuries, and the League Cup's always there. But he wants more than that. He could go somewhere else and play 38 Premier League games and how many other Champions League games in a season, because he is of that level. And I think we've really seen it in this run, because he's been good in the past for Liverpool, but I think this run has really kind of hammered home just how of that level he is, because he's going through games like the Manchester City one where he's basically had nothing to do all game, similar to the Real Madrid game. And then the big moments come up, the mistake where De Bruyne gets in, the penalty against Mbappe, and he delivers. And that is exactly what goalkeepers at big clubs are expected to do: be bored for 70 minutes and then have to make a save in a key moment. So yeah, and then you add in all these other qualities in terms of pure composure, brilliant with the ball at his feet. Can get involved in build up, and it's madness that no other club had kind of been in for him yet. But I'm sure they will this summer, and it's not a case of kind of Liverpool kicking him out the door. I'm sure they know how good he is. It's just that they can't guarantee him what he wants, which is regular first team football, and he will go somewhere else and get that. And I think if a Champions League level club who's looking for a goalkeeper doesn't go for him, then they must be mad, because he's brilliant. He's got all the experience and all the qualities you need to be a goalkeeper at that level.
I wonder if Jurgen's going to have a little look for the likes of Leipzig. Maybe he can come in and take over from Peter Galaxy or something. Another former Liverpool keeper, by the way. Maybe. He's certainly done his career no harm over the last 2 seasons, Creevy. And he's stepping up for Ireland. He's now got the number 1 shirt there, and he's doing fantastic stuff for us. So, like yourself, it's going to be sad when he leaves, but he does deserve to play first team football. He just absolutely does at this point. I wanted to go bigger picture for a second and ask you, so far under Arne Slot's reign, what has been your favourite aspect of Arne Slot, or a difference that you've noticed with Arne Slot that you've enjoyed from maybe the Jurgen Klopp era?
I'm just loving the defending at the moment, to be honest. I mean, I spoke about the second half there, and how Liverpool kind of retreated into their own box at times. They just did not look troubled in that, and that's against the City side who've got so much. I know they've got problems in midfield and their ability to sustain attacks and that sort of thing, and pen sides in as much as they used to and stop counters. But in terms of what they're putting on the pitch attacking wise, the likes of Phil Foden and Erling Haaland, these and Gundogan making those late arriving runs in the box, Savinho coming off the bench, they've got the quality there to hurt you, and yet Liverpool just did not look troubled. Same against Real Madrid, and it's just such a contrast to kind of last season. Jurgen's last season was so kind of chaotic and open, and Liverpool could be 2-0 up, and you'd still think, well, they probably need to go to 3 here to be comfortable that they'd see it out. Whereas at 1-0, a lot of the time you're kind of pretty relaxed about it. The only worry yesterday was that they were missing chances, and you started to think that might bite them on the, come back to bite them a little bit. But it would have taken luck for City to score, because it wasn't that Liverpool were just defending unbelievably, and they have done all season. This is the reason at the top of the league is their defensive record is better than anybody in the Premier League, and the underlying numbers that underpin that are also better than everybody else in the Premier League. And it's just one of those things that I thought Slot, it was one of his aims to improve that aspect, but thought it would maybe take a little bit more time. And so, yeah, the speed with which he's done that has been incredibly impressive, and Liverpool just look very, very hard to score against, which, when you've got an attack as good as they have, is a really almost a cheat code to winning games.
There was one moment defensively yesterday that stood out for me, and it was Matheus Nunes up against Trent, first half, 1-on-1, and Trent. I immediately thought about the 8-degree difference that Trent was speaking about in his starting position, because he made it look so easy. Picked Nunes' pocket and off he went. And it just immediately, my brain went back to that Trent interview where he spoke about the body positioning and Arne Slot saying, just turn your body 8 degrees in this. And it looked like it was working. So I agree with you. Defensively, we've looked very solid. And if you throw into that Virgil's natural ability to just be in the right place at the right time and cut out these balls, yeah, I agree. It's been a breath of fresh air seeing us defensively under Arne.
And it's also kind of, so I think there's been a kind of improvement in Trent's defending in 1v1s. As you say, he's moving his feet a lot more to get himself ready to intercept, which is a key aspect, I think, when you come up against wingers in those positions. He's doing really well in that. So they're stopping things coming down the sides, but also, so that's happening on either side. And then obviously if you get the ball in the box, then you've got 2 centre-halves who are absolutely happy to head it away, or a goalkeeper who can claim it. But they're also just stopping anything coming through the middle as well, having those kind of 2 midfielders in front, and mostly sometimes Gravenberch on his own. It's just stopping any sort of central progression. So sides are finding it really, really hard to come in, play out, to play back in. It's not, the option's just not there for them to do that. So it's kind of, it's a defensive effort, but it's a team effort as well. And then collectively, how they work on that to keep sides out, it's just hugely impressive.
So as we're sitting here talking and we're praising one player and we're moving on to praise another player, 2 more keep popping up in my mind all the time because the performance was so good. And I guess a quick word on Joe Gomez, being able to step in short notice again, not having played much football, and produce another Joe Gomez level quality, solid, steady as she goes. It's just another reminder as to why it's so important to keep somebody like him at the club.
Yeah, and I think, I kind of never really understood the reaction to Canate's injury, or quite how severe it was, in that, Liverpool in the end, he's got a knee injury there, and they're looking more like weeks than months. So that for me is a huge bonus. And then when you add in the fact that the guy they've got who's coming in to back him up is Joe Gomez, you shouldn't be overly worried about that. I know Konate's been phenomenal this season, but Joe Gomez is a phenomenal player himself, and he's shown that time and time again for Liverpool. I think he was one of the best players that they had last season. Which is no wonder there was interest in sides getting him. And you think he's played centre half with Virgil so many times, none more so than in that 19-20 season when they basically walked the league. And he was only 22 that season, and Liverpool kept, I think, something ridiculous like 25 clean sheets or something. They won so many games, and they were just absolutely impossible to beat in that season. And he was doing that as a youngster, and now he's older, he's more experienced, he's better than he's ever been. So I don't know why anyone would ever be worried about him coming in. And he just showed that yesterday, just top quality performance. Doesn't kind of want to get involved in the physical battle with Haaland because he'd probably lose it. But he's quicker, he's smarter, more composed when he gets the ball. Just loads to love about his performance. And no matter how long Konate's out for, and we hope it's only a few weeks and not too long. Having him in there, you wouldn't worry about it all because he really is top class defender.
Just real quickly on the injuries, actually, do we know any type of confirmed timeframes for Bradley and Konate?
Well, I think with Bradley's looking not great, as in probably the other side of kind of New Year. I think we're looking at a fairly severe-ish hamstring injury. Konate, not quite so sure. I wouldn't maybe rule out that he maybe can make an appearance in December. I don't think that's completely ruled out, so I'll have to see. As Slot continues to say, it's kind of one of those where you get to the final stages of the recovery and it's quite hard to judge, but I don't think Konate's maybe as long as has been said, so that would be good. But if we can see him in December, that would be absolutely fantastic. And I think with Tsimikas, again, I don't think his is too bad. I think from what we're kind of hearing on that one, maybe he's probably going to miss this week coming up, but maybe the other side of that, we could maybe see him, which will be fantastic as a rotational option on that side. So I think all these injuries are not too bad. And there's also a few boosts in the pipelines. In Alisson Jota, very, very close. Chiesa could even be back in the squad for the next game. And I think those two could be as well. So if you get 3 players back into your squad, Elliott's already back. You're just waiting for those defensive injuries to ease. But they, hopefully that doesn't take too long at all because none of them are really severe ones.
I always enjoy Arne Slot speaking about injuries in the press conference, and whenever anybody asks about ours, he almost feigns surprise that we have injuries because you don't really see it mentioned too much outside of the Liverpool-centric circles. A couple of things on Manchester City. I wanted to ask, are you now at a point, because I am, where we're writing Manchester City off as title contenders this season? Now, I'm not saying we're going to win the league, but just to write them off, I'm at a point where I think they're not the same beast, so I don't think they're going to be able to go on the same run. And also, what did you make of Stefan Ortega's comments yesterday after the game?
Yeah, so I'm absolutely writing Manchester City off. They are gone, and I still see people in the replies on kind of social media and comments on YouTube suggesting that they could come back from this, but it's just I don't think that's rooted in reality. I mean, if they'd been unlucky with the games they'd lost this season, and it's the Pep Guardiola teams of the past, you could maybe say they could overturn that sort of deficit, but they haven't been unlucky. They've deserved to lose as many games as they have, and they've performed. They've won some games they haven't deserved to so far this season. They've just performed incredibly poorly, and they aren't going to get Rodri back. Gundogan is not suddenly going to become younger. The same goes for Walker, De Bruyne, all these players who are the kind of wrong side of 30. That issue isn't going to ease itself, and you can say they might buy in January and maybe that will give them some improvement, but they're never going to be. They could be even further behind then, and I just don't anticipate that they will be anywhere near it. So I'm absolutely kind of happy to write them off as title contenders. And yeah, as for Ortega's comments, I thought very poor taste and lacking in class, really. Not the kind of stuff you need to be hearing around this match. But I guess a lot of it is kind of guys who are used to winning, throwing the toys out a little bit and not being happy about it. But there's no need to make comments like that. And as I say, I just thought classless, really, and poor form. But Liverpool fans can have their last laugh at the end of the day because they've come away with a thumping win, and they know that's Manchester City kind of dead and buried for this season already.
So there's one thing that stood out for me about the whole Pep and Ortega incident is that the scouts' wit and humour seems to have gone over their head
Yeah.
because all that was, and I thought Pep actually got it during the game, was them just singing you're getting sacked in the morning because obviously it's so ludicrous, the idea of Guardiola getting sacked. And Pep just gave it the six back to them. And I thought fair play. I enjoyed that, but it seemed the humour of it seems to have gone over some of their heads.
Yeah, I totally agree about that in terms of when he did it during the match, I kind of thought, brilliant, fair play, that's great. Just a bit of back and forth between the manager and the crowd, and everyone's having a laugh and enjoying it. And then his comments in the post-match press conference were utterly bizarre, really. It was like he kind of had a sense of humour bypass and just completely forgotten that it was just a joke and that he seemed disappointed by it. But it was just quite light-hearted and nobody thinks he's going to get sacked. And yeah, I didn't really understand that. I thought in the moment it seemed like a great moment, a bit of fun between them both. But yeah, his comments were really odd.
Even just the smile on his face when he did the six back, I thought, no, he gets this. He's been
Yeah,
here enough now. He understands what this is because, as I said, it's so ludicrous the idea of Guardiola getting sacked that, of course, it wasn't serious. Mohamed Salah once again ramped up the pressure with an assist and a goal yesterday. Himself and Wayne Rooney now clear 36 involvements of one game with a goal and an assist, just the two of them. So surely he'll go on and break that. But Jamie Carragher seems to be very upset about all of this. And I just don't know why, David. I don't understand why he won't let this go. Every time Mo comes out, which is his prerogative, to come out and speak about it, he's not really throwing anybody under a bus or he's not going in on the club. He's just shifting the narrative a little bit. And, I like Daniel Sturridge's take on it, to be honest. I like Roy Keane's take on it, where Roy said he's doing his talking on the pitch. Let him do that. I think Harris has taken it a little bit too far now. I think he just needs to let it go.
I think with Cara, I think he's maybe fallen into that trap, and I have been there myself. Is that sometimes if you're the victim of a pile-on online, which I thought was unfair because I think his original comments in terms of I still do think it was a selfish act from Salah to mention it ahead of this week. Obviously, it didn't detract from the performances in the end, so everybody's happy and that's okay. But I thought, he probably didn't need to do it in the timing that he did, even though, again, I completely agree he deserves his contract and it needs to be sorted out. But he got a pile on that was probably above and beyond those comments and went a little bit too far. So I think he's kind of now trying to pull it back a bit and kind of still make his point quite strongly. But at the end of the day, Mo has delivered in this week, hasn't he? And Liverpool have, and it hasn't proven a distraction. So it's given him the upper hand a little bit. But I think for Liverpool as well, from their perspective, maybe they'll kind of think, look, well, if we keep him on this leash for the rest of the season, whereby we're tempting him with this contract, if he just keeps scoring and assisting at this rate to earn it, then everybody's a winner. So we'll see how that kind of plays out. But it's still the same situation, isn't it? Salah could not be clearer about the fact he's absolutely desperate to stay, which means he will compromise. And I think Liverpool, you can't lose a player of this quality for free. So I'm sure they will be willing to compromise as well. But they've got to, maybe there's a bit more of an butting heads and disagreeing before that agreement comes around. But let's hope it's pretty soon.
Absolutely, compromise definitely feels like the word of the day, because both sides need this to happen, and it's best for both sides for it to happen. So, fingers crossed. Just before we finish up, another big week coming up. St James's Park on Wednesday, potentially the last ever Merseyside derby at Goodison, certainly in the league, definitely coming up. Thoughts ahead of this week? I mean, it seems like we're saying it's another big week all the time. It's another week of tests that we've passed so far with flying colours. Are you nervous? Are you excited? How are you feeling?
I'm kind of looking forward to seeing how they get on with these tests because they undeniably are. I mean, Arsenal fans will tell you that Newcastle is a difficult place to go, and I think they're kind of hanging the hat on the possibility of Liverpool dropping points there. If that doesn't happen, maybe they'll reassess the kind of views on Liverpool, or perhaps not. But is no denying that could be a tough fixture. I would say Newcastle's form has been a little bit wobbly recently, so that helps. Would help if Alexander Isak isn't available as well. But Liverpool, they've got to keep answering these questions, haven't they? They've got to keep going to these different places now, and they've had a few big wins at home. Can they go and get some big wins away? But I just think you look at the league table, you look at the performance of Newcastle and Everton recently, you look at Liverpool's performance, and you've got to say they should be confident and aiming for 6 points from these games. There's no reason why not. And if if they come through these sets of tests, will that again convince people on the outside that they really are, the huge favourites for the title? Because I think they've already answered those questions, but another week where they get a chance to show that to everybody else. So I'm looking forward to it, and I think Liverpool should be flying into it after what they've done recently.
I'm so excited about it. And there's this game I'm adamant Darwin has to play. If ever there was a game, it's Newcastle away. He's earned the right to be on that pitch because single-handedly he turned that one around for us, and I'll never forget that performance. David, what have you got coming up this week on YouTube, on your Substack as well? What have we got to look forward to? Because obviously I'm not jealous this week because you don't get to go to these two games unless you have a ticket to the derby, do you?
I might be at the derby. I've put in for it, so we'll see if I get accredited. I was there last season, so hopefully get in for this one. But we'll see. It's a very small press box there, but so obviously coverage of those two games to go. Hopefully, YouTube video from Goodison Park, but we'll see. And on Substack today as well, if people want to check it out, a bit of analysis on the City game and the difference in the two Liverpool's approaches, in each half and exactly how they kind of did it. So if you want to learn a little bit more about that, do check it out at davidlynchlfc.co.uk.
We always enjoy chatting with David, and of course we always appreciate you guys who watch, listen, share it. Let us know your thoughts in the comment section if you're watching this on YouTube. If you're listening to it on your favourite podcast app, please do leave us a rating on there. We will be back after the game midweek. Until then, thank you all so much for watching. Thank you, of course, to David. Do make sure to check out his Substack and, of course, everything at David Lynch LFC as well. We'll catch up with you soon. Bye-bye.